What's going on, guys? This is Joe from GadgetryTech.com, and today we're driving the 2015 Lexus RX 350 F Sport. Now, the F Sport does a few things to this car, one being the upgrades to the suspension. It's tuned a little bit more sporty, so you lose a little bit of the soft ride you typically get with a Lexus, but you get better handling. Base price of the RX 350 starts at $41,000, and this particular model is $52,000. But basically, you get the more aggressive styling. You'll have that front bumper that has the spindle grille, which is becoming pretty common with Lexus. It's basically the design language that they have now. So all-wheel drive is standard. It has a torque vectoring differential to help with power front and rear, left and right, to give you a little bit more stability. It also gives you 8 speeds instead of 6. Now, the advantage to that isn't just with performance, which it does help a lot when you first get off the line in a red light, but it helps with fuel economy. It actually gets 1 mile per gallon better on the highway and combined than the standard all-wheel drive version of this car, and that's just because of the transmission. This still weighs the most out of all of the RXs they have. I have to look up the exact weight of the hybrid, but for the gasoline-powered cars, this is the heaviest one. The weight on this actually hits 4,500 pounds, and I believe they start just over 4,100, so there's a bit of add-on to it, partly because your moonroof is standard, and we all know a glass roof is going to add some weight, but you get the standard HID headlights, the more aggressive front bumper, all-wheel drive, 8-speed transmission, little things here and there, the F-Sport steering wheel. So it's a pretty good package. It makes quite a big difference on the overall price, but when you look at what other cars give you for the money, it's really not I mean, they're within a couple grand of each other. When you compare it to the Audi Q5 or the Mercedes ML or M-Class SUVs, the Infiniti QX60, they're all typically within a couple grand of each other. So this is right in line once you start adding features, especially. Now, driving this car, there are a couple things I've noticed. I have driven the front-wheel drive non-F Sport version, and although they both have the same engine, that only has a 6-speed, but because it weighs a bit less, it seems to not have to rev quite as high in the initial gears. It kind of keeps the RPMs down. I'm not sure if that has everything to do with the weight, transmission, or the fact that it's all-wheel drive, but I'm surprised it gets as good a fuel economy as it does, considering the revs are typically higher. I know they obviously know what they're doing for gearing, but that's my only little odd thing about the difference between the F Sport with all-wheel drive versus the standard, is the revs tend to go up a little bit higher under mild acceleration. Now, on the road, there's no question that this is a Lexus. It drives nice and smooth. It's very quiet. Lexus vehicles are some of the few vehicles where I don't need to use special sound recording or microphones to eliminate background noise in order to get better feedback when I'm talking, so that speaks a lot about the in-cabin volume. In addition to being quiet, this particular motor, it's really, really strong and smooth. They don't have a 4-cylinder option or different engine availability as far as this particular chassis goes. So with the RX, you're always getting a 3.5 liter V6, unless of course you get the hybrid. Now Toyota is known to produce the best-selling hybrids in the world, so that's still a common model. As far as reliability goes, the RX hybrid, the 450h, and the 350 were in 1st and 3rd respectively for a Cars.com article that was recently made, saying that they're the least troublesome cars to own. Now that is any car, any class, any price range, and 2 of the top 3 was this vehicle. So if that gives you any consolation as to how much you're getting for your investment, you can look at specs all day, fuel economy, the design of course is personal preference, but when it all comes down to it, when you're buying a $50,000 vehicle, it's an investment. It's not a cheap purchase. You're not buying a $5,000 Honda that's used. You're getting something that you're going to have for a long time and keep with the family. So getting that long-term security is super important. So why not, in the meantime, get something that's stylish, it performs well, with the 8-speed and the V6. I have room for 5 people. I can put my dogs in the back. So there's a lot of practicality to it, in addition to the styling. Styling is the biggest, I think, selling point for a lot of people on vehicles. You either love cars or you hate it. You know, regardless of what something looks like on paper, if I don't appreciate the way it looks, I'm not going to like it. Toyota, Lexus were a little bit more reserved in the previous years as far as their design philosophy goes. They're much more aggressive now, which is, they stay true enough to their designs that they haven't alienated the people that always bought them, but it's certainly a good effort of attracting more owners, and I think they're doing a good job, because I'm finally considering Lexus for my personal vehicles, whereas before it just didn't do much for me. So they're certainly doing a good job at attracting a younger audience. I think you're going to see that with a lot of their advertisements, because they want to keep growing. You know, we have a core baseline customer base, but if they want to get more, you have to find ways to attract them. So styling, commercials, all that. But guess what? It's still the most reliable vehicle you can buy. So, you know, they're not sacrificing anything to appeal to younger buyers, which is important. There are a couple things I want to point out, and you're going to get mixed reviews on the interface of this car. There's one thing that I think some reviewers miss, and it's the way the mouse interacts with the screen. A lot of people have said that there's no feedback whatsoever. You're blindly trying to navigate the radio. I don't think they're giving it enough time, or they're just jamming everything around playing with it. The trackpad on this, and if you look at this close-up, there's a picture showing right now that kind of gives you an idea on how it's laid out. When I move this, whatever button or text is on the screen, this little trackpad snaps to it. And it's very hard to explain because the screen changes. So if I have 4 giant squares on the screen and I move this trackpad around, I'm going to feel 4 clicks into place. So I don't have to stare at the pad or move an actual mouse on the screen. I'm intuitively navigating to where I need to go. So if I know the display in this case is in the top right corner of the screen, granted I can push it all the way up in the top right, but if I go nice and easy, I can feel it click into the top right position without even looking at the screen, which is really, really cool. It adds another level of safety, and I don't have to use a trackpad that has 0 feedback. Trackpads can work, you know, good and bad, the actual flat laptop style ones, but this little joystick mouse combination works really well once you've understood how it reacts to what's on the screen. So that is a huge, huge thing. Now the rest of the interior is pretty reserved. The design is looking a little bit dated compared to some new vehicles that are coming out, but it works. Ergonomically, it's almost perfect. My only request would be the tuning control on the radio is a bit out of reach. I'm 6 foot and I have a long arm, and it's still, I have to stretch out or lean forward to get it depending on how I'm driving. So other than that, it's pretty much perfect. The other thing that's cool about this is the driver assist. So if I go to destination on here, one of the options that defaults is destination assist. I clicked it by accident driving to the Orange County Auto Show. I thought I backed out, but apparently I just let it ring. And within about 15-20 seconds, another person answered on the speaker system, and I was able to talk to him. So I figured, why not? I'll give it a shot. Asked where I needed to go, said I'm trying to find the convention center, and probably 15-20 seconds later said it's all set. It's going to download now. Once you receive it, just hang up. It showed up on the nav. I didn't have to search, type anything. I could just talk to a person, and there I was. So that is a really cool feature. They've done a lot of things with electronics to make your drive less distracting. With blind spot monitoring, you have the parking assist, so if I'm getting too close to a curb, it's going to tell me to, you know, stop before I hit it. So there's a lot of cool little things that are becoming more commonplace with high-end luxury vehicles. And Lexus is kind of staying with that trend, is offering every safety feature that's available right now. So overall, very well loaded. You have such a large range in price, you really have to decide what's worth it to you. If you want to save $10,000 and get the base model, it's still a Lexus, so you're going to still have a lot of features standard like Bluetooth and stuff like that. But the F Sport always adds a little bit more to it. You know, it's the complete package where you're getting most of the features checked off by default, aside from a couple things like the nav and the Mark Levinson sound system. So it's up to you, but with that kind of a range, you really have some good choices, and I don't think you can go wrong with any of them between what you save versus what you get. It's a very solid vehicle.